In this video, I'm going to talk about using thick yo-yo lube to help your yo-yo play better. We also have another video about using thin yo-yo lube that you can check out. That's for mostly unresponsive yo-yos. Thick lube is more for beginner yo-yos and yo-yos that you want to play more responsive. So we'll talk about that. At the end of this video, I'm also going to show you an example of how to use the lube. So what thick lube is for is when you've got a yo-yo and it used to kind of come back really easy, but then eventually over time, it seems like it just doesn't come back the way that it used to. And it starts to play a little bit inconsistent and it gets really frustrating. Even though you're getting better as a player, the yo-yo seems to be getting worse. Well, most likely what's happened is you got a yo-yo with a bearing or a transaxle and that came lubed, and now the lube has just started to wear out. And so the way to solve this problem and to get the yo-yo to play consistently again and easily like it used to is to just add a little bit of thick yo-yo lube. Now, the reason why there's yo-yo specific lube, as opposed to any lube you might have around the house, you know, like WD-40 or motor oil or skateboard grease or something, is that all of those different lubes have a specific purpose, and they aren't always going to work exactly right in a yo-yo. Some of them are going to be a little bit too thick, and so they're going to kill the spin on your yo-yo. Some of them are going to be too thin, and so they won't make the yo-yo play as responsive or as easy as you want. Some of them are designed just for metal, and so it could actually damage the plastic in your yo-yo. I've heard stories of yo-yos actually breaking in half after using the wrong kind of lube for too long. So there's all kinds of problems you can have. Thick yo-yo lube is formulated to work perfectly in all those different scenarios, and it's going to make your yo-yo play better. So let's get to it. As you can see, we've got our Sage yo-yo, which is set up for responsive play, and of course our yoyotricks.com thick yo-yo lube. One thing that's especially nice about our lube is, as you can see, it's got a fine applicator tip, which makes it a lot easier to get the lube where you want it to go as opposed to spilling all over the place. So you'll appreciate that if you end up getting some of this. So of course the first thing you need to do is take your yo-yo apart, and you're going to just want to get the string out of the way. In most cases, it's a lot easier to lube the yo-yo properly if you remove the bearing. So I'm just going to use a multi-tool right here, which works for any yo-yo with a size C bearing. And you can see that comes off pretty easy. And you'll see why, because what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to put lube onto the yo-yo itself instead of in the bearing. And even though that is kind of counterintuitive, it actually makes the yo-yo more responsive and more consistent than just lubing the bearing. And it actually helps the yo-yo even sleep longer than if you do lube the bearing. So it seems to be a good deal all the way around. So where you want to put the lube is wherever the bearing is going to touch the yo-yo. And so this one has a bearing seat, so you just put a drop or two of lube just right on top. And if you want to, you can put it on both sides, but it'll smear itself around either way. I usually put it on both sides. Just put a little drop there, a drop here. Now with other yo-yos, they're not going to always be set up the same way. So with some yo-yos, instead of having a bearing seat built right into the plastic, there'll be spacers, and the bearing will sit right on the spacer. So in that case, you'd want to lube the spacer. Some of them have a bolt that goes all the way through, and the bearing actually sits right on the bolt. And so in that case, you lube the bolt right where the bearing goes, put the bearing on, you can lube the other side of the bolt as well. And so that's pretty much it. If you want to take a look, you can kind of see how much lube I got on there. It's pooling a little bit, but it's not a ton, and yet it's not too little. Eventually, as you work it out, you'll figure out the right amount for yourself. After that, I would just put the bearing back on. Now, after this, I would put the yo-yo back together and then give it a test and just see how well it worked. If it didn't play as responsive as I'd like, then I would put some lube in the bearing. And it's the same type of situation where I would usually just put one drop in one place. If I want it to be a little more responsive, you put another drop in. You can even put in 3 drops. If you end up putting too much lube in as you play with it, that'll thin out, so it's not a real big deal. If you've got a yo-yo with a smaller bearing, then it's not going to take as much lube. But everything just comes through experimentation. Now, one thing is with some yo-yos, and this is more true of yo-yos with small bearings, so something like the Oracle, is every time you lube it and then you put the string on and then you play with it and then you lube it again, eventually over time that lube is going to kind of build up in there and it's going to slow the bearing down so that it doesn't spin quite as well. So what you can actually do is take some of our thin lube and put that in the bearing, and that'll allow it to kind of spin free, and that will basically allow you to reset the bearing without having to clean it. And once you've run some thin lube through it, then you can put the thick lube back in, and you'll see it'll just play great again. So again, you just put the yo-yo back together and you're pretty much all set. So that is how you use yoyotricks.com thick lube to make your yo-yo play better. So as you can see, I've got my Sage and we've got our thick Yoyo Lube in it. And you remember before when I was trying to pull it up, it was kind of inconsistent and you didn't really know what to expect. And now you can see with even just the slightest tug, the yo-yo's coming back. And so that's going to help deal with a lot of frustration, especially if you want your yo-yo to play responsive. Now, one thing that might happen with thick Yoyo Lube is if you've put a lot in the bearing, when you're first starting to play with your yo-yo, it might not spin as long as it did before. Don't worry about that. As you play with the yo-yo in 2, 3, 4 minutes, that lube will kind of break in a little bit and your yo-yo will spin just as long as it did before. And yeah, those are just some of the advantages of using thick Yoyo Lube on your responsive yo-yos.